Good morning. It is a very exciting day for me. We just arrived at Pilansburg Nature Reserve together with Toyota and a bunch of other press and media people, and we are dehorning rhinos for the next 2 days.
And always kiss the rhino. Good. We measure about, in layman's terms, about 4 fingers. That's roughly about 8 to 10 centimeters from where the skin and the horn actually meets each other, and then you make a perpendicular cut through each other. That's parallel with the skin-horn junction. You can't cut skew, otherwise you may damage the growth plate. On the back one is exactly the same. We just take it a little bit more down, and then you will see there's no pain involved. It's just keratin. You'll see the tip of the growth plate. I'll show that to you. Don't worry if it does shiver a bit when we start cutting. It's just the vibrations, because your sinuses starts to amplify the sound through that. So it's not painful at all. We've done studies where we put a nerve block in. There's no change whatsoever. So it's not painful to the animal. There's no harm done to it. Afterwards, it's exactly the same as what it was before. So you'll see there's a bit of a smell. That's what rhino horns smell like. So I'll start cutting now, and you guys can see how it goes. Okay. If you have any questions, ask us. Yes. That's it. So the horse is off now. Thank you. And then why we grind him off a little bit, you don't have to take too much off. But it's just to take that 90-degree edge away, because if they do hit something it might chip, so we just round it off a little bit, and that's it. And then we spray a type of lubricant and oil under it.
So we're doing a mass dehorning. So obviously what happens then is all the animals' horns get cut to the same level, so the attraction for poachers and that diminishes significantly, because there's not the viability versus the effort to try and get a relatively small amount of horn. But obviously it doesn't stop them. They still come sometimes and they try and poach small horns. Fortunately in Pilansburg we have very good anti-poaching units, and we haven't experienced any problems since we've done the dehorning. So what we're busy with is just a mass dehorning.
Baby, it ain't always easy. Oh, you know, sometimes it's just downright hard. And lately, you've been feeling dizzy, spinning all around, trying to find my heart. And maybe you've been feeling like quitting. Raise your head and look at how far we've come.
So we did them during the COVID period in May 2020. And obviously the rhino horn is basic keratin base, so it's pretty similar to your fingernails. It continues to grow, so sort of every 14 to 18 months you've got to redo this process every time. The rhinos has always been special to me. My passion's photography, and I've always had a special association with rhinos. But I think the gravity really set in when my granddaughter was born a few years ago, and I was busy with my photographs, and she's sitting on my lap and looking at the screen of me looking at rhinos. And I think that's where the gravity sets in. You start thinking about, is her child or their child even going to see a live rhino in the wild in 10 or 20 years time if this carnage carries on. And I think that's what just drives your passion levels even higher, when you start realizing that they may not be around anymore. And we are here now, and we can do something about it. We can put an effort in. So a lot of people can say they want to do something, but honestly you've got to get down and do it. That's the only way we're going to save these poor things.
So this is a very special opportunity for me, because I've never touched a rhino before today, and it's so extremely soft down here. a magical experience. It's awesome. In his mouth.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, please hold this. She's so soft. It's like
It's funny, you see horse they saw.
getting a kiss there. Oh wow.
They don't have
Tongue right in
They don't have incisor teeth, they only have molar teeth. Good.
Thank you.
Special creatures.
Pretty much this.
We're busy making up some more darts. We call it a dart to anesthetize the animal, so that's what it basically is. You've got the dart in itself, and you've got a needle that fits onto the dart, and a flight stabilizer to keep the dart stable during flying when it exits the barrel of the gun towards the animal. So the drug that we use is called M99 or etorphine. Now etorphine is a synthetic morphine derivative that's roughly about 7 to 10,000 times more potent than the morphine they use in human medication. They have certain side effects, and the main side effects that we are worried about for ourselves and for the animals is cardiac and respiratory suppression. So that means it affects the ability of your heart and your lungs to function normally. So your heart starts to slow down and your lungs can't exchange the oxygen sufficiently from the air that it breathes in. You guys don't have to worry about that. That's usually why we work with these drugs. But it has the same side effects on the animals. And to prevent that, we use a drug in the animals called butorphanol. The butorphanol sort of slightly reverses your respiratory suppressing effects of the M99 on the animal, and it also on cellular levels relaxes the cells, so the body cells is more relaxed and they're all nice and stable, and that means that the oxygen that is in the blood can be dispersed more efficiently towards all the cells in the body that need it. The butorphanol also plays an important role in your lung itself. It keeps your little small alveoli open, so it means they are all open to get fresh air in and to exchange it. Then obviously we need to wake up the animal after it's anesthetized, and for that we use a drug called naltrexone. In a failed situation like this, we call it a complete antagonist, so that means it reverses the animal 100%. Now if you think about it, it doesn't miraculously make the M99 disappear. We talk about receptors and receptor binding sites. So you've got the M99 molecule that's almost, if you think about a 3D puzzle piece, it's got a specific shape and size, and your receptor site has got a specific shape and size, and we call it, these two have got an affinity for each other. So once the M99 is in the blood, it finds all those receptor binding sites, it sits in the receptor binding site, and it's almost like flicking a light switch off, then the animal falls asleep. So if I add the naltrexone now, what the naltrexone does, although it's got the same molecular structure, I always say it's like the Rambo of the drug, so it's a little bit stronger, so it's got a greater affinity for that receptor binding site. It wants to be in there, so it actually kicks the M99 molecule out of there, binds itself irreversibly in there, and by doing that it switches on the switch again and the animal wakes up. So the M99 is still circulating in the bloodstream, it gets metabolized by the liver and stuff, but it can't have an effect anymore because naltrexone has blocked all those receptor sites for the M99, so it can't let the animal fall asleep again, and that's trying to make it simple how they wake up again. And you guys will see with all the injections we do, we give them a multivitamin, we deworm them, and we give them an anti-inflammatory. It's quite important. Remember, it's a heavy animal, and the way they lie down, they can sometimes cause a bit of inflammation or ischemic necrosis in the muscle, so we just do all of this to prevent any of those damages that can occur to the animal. So that's in sweet and short how these drugs work.
Ek gaan nou nie vlieg, ek sien jou daar. I am getting a ride in the helicopter.
Good, let's go.
Thank you.
Yesterday's gone like the tide, it's gone like the night. The stars in the sky and the sun is here to wash over you, to make you brand new, show you how to shine. And let's forget the things we can't change, the tears and the shame. We've so much to gain if our hearts beat for the here and the now. We'll make it somehow. What do you say? Look out to the sky.
we as humans have fenced in these wild animals, and obviously we need the habitat that they live in and the genetic diversities and everything still to be maintained. And because we fence them in, conservation, we need to ensure that those animals are looked after and they're safe, and that we don't, as humans, drive them into extinction. Because that's essentially what's happening here, you know. And so when we try and conserve them, we try and ensure that they have their natural habitat, that the numbers are fine, that the whole ecosystem still functions as one. And as soon as you have an imbalance, too many predators, too few predators, too many of one, too many of, or too little of that, you know, you have that total imbalance. And the rhinos and buffaloes as grazers play a critical role in keeping the grasses mowed, as it would say. But you know, they play a massive role. So, and the whole conservation project revolves around people and funding. You know, and unfortunately, the Parks Board funding isn't materialising to the levels that it should. So as I say, a lot of the trust funding and donor funding is what's keeping the conservation efforts going in these type of parks.
Thank you. There's a rhino right here. It's going to come out of the bushes, I think. Okay, that's a little bit close for comfort. I'm stuck between the rhino and the helicopter.
It's nice and look of penny.
Just take away from the balls.
Ja, kom op, stop op.
Dink jy rarig, jy het al hier toe geloop?
Yeah, he thinks
He thinks he walked this here.
do some sand skiing. Oh, just send the trip meter over the. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to it, buddy.
You put it in, then we'll just stand there again.
Cool.
To his friend. Just walk it to his friend. Come on, Steve.
Put the market chip in now.
Die daai net vloer daar. Kan.
Slaap uit soos 'n klap. Jo.
Okay, so these guys are extremely busy. We arrived probably about 2.5 hours ago, and we've darted 3 separate groups of rhino, and now we're just up in the air going for the next one. So really is an intense day, and these guys do it often, I think. So it's very cool to be a part of it. How often does a little rhino calf get a ride in the helicopter?
Not so often. We've only had 2 this week, but yeah, we have to put them back together again. Little baby needs its mom, eh?
Both ran away.
So during the dotting process, quite often they get separated. And the only way to relocate them back over a distance, even though they've got a squeaky noise that they make, is that you put them in the chopper and ferry them back. That little calf must probably run 3 or 4 kilometers away from its mother now, so that's what we do. I think just from an overall perspective as well, you know, it takes a lot of people and passionate people to make this operation work. Everyone from volunteers to very qualified vets to extremely qualified helicopter pilots. And they go out this and they do it from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, just as part of their passion. Obviously funding is very critical in this game. It's not cheap to have choppers in the air and vets and the drugs especially to sedate the rhinos. So obviously funding is very key. And that's where we really rely on the business partners and the Pilansburg Wildlife Trust and the associated people linked to that to fund these type of operations, and just through the goodwill of people that are funding this. But it's a critical part of what we're trying to do and trying to achieve. And we have seen that it has worked, reducing the horns and the amount of horn that is available in some of the parks we're working with. And yeah, so it's just it's sad that we have to do it, but it's something that is necessary at the end of the day.
Okay, so just to give you an idea of how fast this actually happens, the chopper comes in, darts the rhino, and then the ground team literally moves in like now. This is how quick it is. And then they take the samples, do the dehorning, and go.
Picture perfect on the surface. All these illusions that we worship. I see the walls coming down. I hope someday we'll build them up on solid ground. Consequences go unnoticed, like the weight that's on our shoulders, pulling us down, but we don't know it. Or maybe we do, but just like the truth we never say. We don't need money, 'cause money ain't the problem, baby. What are we becoming?
Yeah, well, obviously we're very involved in saving the rhino. Really, part of our heritage really is the rhino. And it's really been poached and almost driven to extinction for a myth of medicinal value, and it's really not true. So what these poor animals have to go through and endure now to be dehorned as part of the saving of the species is actually quite tragic, but it's something we've got to do to try and lessen the risk of poaching. And obviously it's a very expensive operation, but you do put the animals through some trauma as well, which is obviously quite heart-touching.
That made excuses. Bum, knee, gout, all those things there.
Was this just luck? Did you guys just come? Hello, welcome.
I just want him, Rusty, to get in. Everybody say Rhino!
Everybody say 50,000 donations.
We only take pounds in US.
Obviously, the more funding we can get, the more we can do. You know, there's a lot of vehicles involved. Toyota has been specific in supporting a lot of the mobility in the vehicle, which really fits with our brand, the mobility of vehicles. Also the number of people using the parks on a weekend and stuff. You know, Toyota sells vehicles that people can experience their passion, and that's why our association with the rhinos and that is there, because it's something that our customers are really wanting to see and want their children and their grandchildren to see as well. So that's really the link and the connotation that Toyota has with the Rhino project. You see what we're doing now? We're flushing the dust out of the eyes. So he puts a wash, and then he puts an eye drop in.
Maybe we've had the map all along, but we just didn't know it. Maybe we've been so wrapped up in the world that we missed the point and now it's showing. How can we turn it around to hear the sound of inner peace? Maybe it's simpler than we think it should be. Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going?
Hey Alti, wat 'n amazing dag. Jessie. En toe daai klein babatjie in die helikopter gelaai word en sy oor jou kop vlieg. Here, dit gee my strale in jou oor. Dit maak 'n mens darm.
Yeah.
Yes, that's spectacular.
Spectacular. Amazing experience.
Amazing experience. Wow.
Okay, so here's the behind the scenes part that you guys don't see. Half of the time we're driving around following the chopper looking for, well, the spot where they darted the rhino. How's your day been?
Wonderful, cold, stunning though.
And here's our other friend, Runel.
Hi.
How are you enjoying this experience?
I'm loving it. It's exhilarating. Yeah.
Anton?
Ja, is genielde Villiers hierso. Ek jaag die karre. En die choppers.
And Alan.
Professional navigator. I make sure we don't get lost. Actually, no, that's not true at all, but that's fine. Yeah, having a ball.
So we are all media that have been invited by Karen here to experience what Toyota are doing.
That's right, yeah. So glad to have you, all of you on board.
Thank you. You can hear that it's still early in the morning. Nobody's ready for me to be rolling a camera and sticking it in their faces without any warning. Thanks, guys. The darting procedure, or the whole procedure for the black rhino, is very different to the procedure for the white rhino because, as we know, they are extremely aggressive. So they've just darted a black rhino here and waiting around to see if we would be able to go in and actually see it. That would be cool, touching a white rhino and a black rhino 2 days apart. Those are like two big life moments for me. So let's hope. Yes, they're saying yes.
Guys, take your pictures and then just go because when it wakes up, it's hectic, please.
Okay, here's my chance. I'm gonna go touch a black rhino.
Tell me if I was falling, if I was down, would you even see? I'm so tired of calling out for someone to notice me. I've been down on my knees for so long, crying, please. Where were you when I was hurting?
Maybe it's just because my hands are so extremely cold, but this rhino feels very warm.
I wanna see love, make a comeback. I wanna feel love when it runs out. I wanna see everybody joining in until kindness wins again. We're gonna feel hope when it runs out. We're gonna see everybody joining in till kindness wins again. We're gonna know peace is not defeated. We're gonna know hate won't bring us freedom. It doesn't matter.
escape. Let's go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was amazing. And now we have to run because if they wake it up, it's going to be furious as hell.
Yeah, they said we must get out of here immediately.
Yeah,
Let's get
so
in the car. We are driving a new Fortuner, by the way. And there's me.
New Fortuner, 2.8, 4x4 VX, 150 kilowatts, 550 Newton meters of torque. Ooh, this baby holds the ground like you won't believe it. Easy to chase the chopper.
I know that kindness is the answer we're all looking for. I know that love could be the thing that opens
In the cars! In the cars! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
Maybe I've been naive before.
Drive!
I'm not anymore. So I know that kindness is the answer we're all searching for. Really, 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 really need your love. Really, 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 really need your love. I'm begging you to be kind.
Right, so this is the very last rhino for the day, and then we'll be heading out. Last chance to see a rhino. It's been such an amazing experience. All the people here are really amazing, and this whole project, if it wasn't for, you know, private people taking hands and doing something about the problem, this wouldn't have been happening. This is not government funding. This is all private and corporate working together. It's a good idea. It's the best.
Puppies, you have a notary. So let's see when he was not.
What do we know about him?
What we know about him is that he has a mum. He was 10 months old on the 27th of January 2022. So what's that make him? Born in April of 2021. He's number one. Rhino number one.
Was he the first one you notched in
No,
Pilansburg?
that's just the number that came up when he was born or when he was notched. We change numbers, I'll show you. Let's say the previous number one dies, that number becomes available again, and then you'll say what sex it is, whether it's a V or square notch, the date they were notched, the date they were last seen, and then where were they seen, age when they were notched. And then who's the mom? Do you know? And if we do know, we'll put who the mom was. So like now we do know, but he was already notched before. Then he's got a VGL, which is the DNA bag number. And then when we did the horns trimming, and then this transponder is on there.
I'm begging you to be kind.
I am feeling extremely lucky. We're busy with the other rhino, so I'm just spending time with this one. And I'm shooting in reverse here. This is so amazing. He's super calm. I'm very emotional, and yes, I just had a cry because how often in your life do you get to experience something like this? So, thanks, dude. This one's young. He's 1 year old, so he had his first dehorning today. Number one. That's what this notch here means. Number one. Thanks, guys. Thanks for this opportunity. Thank you. Goodbye, Rhino. Thank you. John, thank you for bringing us on this adventure.
Pleasure. Glad you enjoyed it.
Very much so.
I can't wait to see your footage.
Soon.
When are we seeing it?
Soon.
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 I'm begging you to be kind, be kind, be kind. I'm begging you to be kind. I'm
Thank you so much for this experience. Thank you for bringing us out here, and thanks to all of you for watching. This was definitely not a bad day. There's no such thing. No bad days. Goodbye.